one of the issues that has been obviously weighing heavily over the country is matters of policing and racial justice, particularly after the events we saw in Ferguson after the shooting of Michael Brown, and then the chokehold death of Eric Garner, and then the failure to indict either of the police officers who were involved in those incidents. The president obviously has previously spoken some at times about issues of race, about issues of policing. And we're joined now by Tremaine Lee, MSNBC national reporter, and also Kwame Jackson, speaker, consultant, and entrepreneur, to dig into some of those issues and what we can expect or not expect, frankly, to hear in the speech tonight from the president. Tremaine, I wanted to start with you. You know, what are you sort of expecting that we'll hear tonight?
I don't really think we're going to hear much that will kind of make people feel good who've been out there protesting on the front lines since August, really, when Mike Brown was killed. One thing that would be great, and I doubt we'll hear much about it, but in December, the president signed the Death in Custody Reporting Act, which means, you know, law enforcement agencies across the country will actually have to report how many people they kill or how many people have died while in custody. So now America has national, right? We have about 17,000 law enforcement agencies. Since 2008, only about 750 have reported. And in that time, they've only reported 400 deaths. 17,000. So you can only imagine the kind of data we might be missing. Now that speaks to that kind of accountability. Beyond the end of, you know, killing young unarmed black people in the streets, many protesters have been saying at least some accountability. At least let us know the true scope of what's going on, because if what we've seen is any indication, it's obviously pretty bad, this kind of relationship.
So Tremaine, you start out by saying if Americans expect, and especially black Americans expect the president to talk about policing, they shouldn't expect much. You have a story up today on MSNBC.com that talks about many of the Black Lives Matter activists and the fact they will be live tweeting using a hashtag SOBU, say the Black Union. Tell us about that story.
And so basically, these are kind of the same characters, but also much more broadly, this kind of coalitions of grassroots organizations, some of which kind of popped up after Trayvon Martin. Others have kind of been emboldened and grown from Ferguson to Staten Island. We mentioned the Eric Garner case, all across the country, who have been demanding under this banner and this hashtag Black Lives Matter. Some people said, I want to hear explicitly, I want to hear President Obama say Black Lives Matter. As you mentioned, he kind of dances around it. He talks about the chasm. Now, he'll talk about the inequality. He'll talk about some of the inequity. He'll talk about this kind of tense relationship, but he never gets to the point for some people, to really explicitly in some sort of concrete way. And so tonight, that pound SOBU, folks are having this kind of conversation, addressing issues that they don't think President Obama will talk about. Again, the accountability factor, the idea that there seems to be, you know, black folks dying with impunity. And if we know every month, there's some new name that we're adding to this long list. Tamir Rice with a pellet gun, the young man in New Mexico with a pill bottle that a police officer mistook for a weapon. And so as the fervor kind of grows, people are increasingly putting pressure on the political system. You know, we always talk about this disconnect between young people and the process, but now they are organizing because their numbers, at least by social media, they're out there.
Yeah.
So let's get Kwame in here. Kwame, tell us what you think the president, what you expect the president to talk about tonight in terms of issues of racial justice. Obviously, we just celebrated the holiday yesterday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Do you expect him to talk about policing, education? What are you looking for?
Yeah, I think Tremaine hit the nail on the head. I think in terms of police brutality, a lot of people want to see the president say Black Lives Matter. Not that all lives matter, not that everyone is not on the same page, but specifically that Black Lives Matter. I think in terms of a policy to advocate to move the ball forward, people are looking to see the president and people push for moving prosecuting authority from the local level to at least the state level, if not the federal level. It's the New York Attorney General pushed for that in the New York case with Eric Garner, and I think that can become a real blank slate and a role model for a broader movement across the nation so that we can move that local affiliation with local police departments and the discrimination that's happening there and kind of the old boy network into more of a national spotlight so there will be more accountability for these Black lives that are lost.
Yeah. Tremaine, one of the special guests that's going to be here, and one of the things we were talking to Vicky Francesca Soto about earlier, is some of the symbolic gestures, even if there aren't a lot of words in the speech. And one of the symbolic gestures here tonight is that Malik Bryant, a 13-year-old who wrote a letter to Santa asking...
From Chicago, I might add, from my hometown.
From Chicago. Wrote a letter to Santa, and it got sent to the president, and he was just asking to be safe, to be secure. And I understand You actually got a chance to talk to Malik.
That's right.
Let's take a look at what he had to say.
When 13-year-old Malik Bryant wrote a letter to Santa this year, he only asked for one thing. And it wasn't a new Xbox, iPad, or bicycle.
I would like to ask you something, but first I'm going to tell you about me. I'm a black African American. I stand 5'10". I'm in 7th. My favorite subject is math. I have 2 siblings. All I ask for is for safety. I just want to be safe.
Of all the things you could have asked for, safety.
Yeah.
It was safety in his hardscrabble neighborhood on the south side of Chicago.
That's the park where the 13 people here got shot at.
13 people just blocks away from here?
2 hours before the shooting, I was up there.
Does it feel like you literally dodged a bullet?
Yeah. I'm worried about losing my life for nothing.
Malik's letter never made it to Santa, but it did land in the hands of another powerful and famous figure, President Barack Obama. After reading the letter, President Obama wrote back to Malik.
It says, "Dear Malik, I want to offer you a few words of encouragement this holiday season. Each day I strive to ensure communities like yours are safe places to dream, discover, and grow. I'm confident you can achieve anything you imagine, and I will be rooting for you. Sincerely, President Obama."
Wow. The president is rooting for you.
I ain't trying to brag, and that feel real good. Everybody had a blessing someday.
And this is yours, one of
Yeah.
yours? But not only did the president write a letter to Malik, he and First Lady Michelle Obama have invited Malik to be one of their special guests at this year's State of the Union address in Washington.
This the suit I'll be wearing. This suit costs over $400, but we got a deal on it. It's a 3-piece. This ain't my style, but this. Most people don't get this chance to go meet the president.
Right.
And the first lady. I'm just, nervous, because that's president.
Have you ever been on an airplane?
No, never.
So are you more nervous about getting on the airplane or meeting the president?
On the airplane.
Malik says the president's letter and invitation to the State of the Union address means a lot to him and his family and offers a bit of hope in a place so often filled with violence, fear, and despair.
I'm excited. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime thing, meeting the president.
I find this to be a fascinating way for the president to engage. I mean, first of all, this is such a cool thing that this kid is getting to come to the speech.
Yeah.
This is an issue that the president has seemed sort of hesitant to talk too much publicly about. I think the sense from the White House is that it's actually politically counterproductive for the president to be out too far in front of policing issues or, frankly, other issues that implicate race.
And especially before the midterms, I might add.
Especially, but even afterward, So, what do you make of this sort of as a strategy for the White House to engage on this in a way that they think will move the needle in a direction that they want?
As you mentioned, typically Attorney General Eric Holder is the proxy for issues of race, and he's been the most outspoken in the administration. And I think this is another token. I think people who have supported President Obama for a long time, especially in the black communities who have been behind him from the very beginning, see these tokens sometimes and recognize them as, you hear us, you're here with us. On the other hand, so many people feel disconnected to the process because no matter how much they support a candidate, a politician, someone either locally or federally, nothing seems to kind of tamp down on the rampant violence, the flow of guns. And so this young man, who, as heartbreaking as it is, he lived 3 blocks from a playground where last year 13 people were shot. 13 in one incident with an AK-47. What is someone on the streets of Chicago doing with an AK-47? So again, it's a nice gesture. That young man's life, he's a sweetheart of a kid. You talk to him, and it means a lot to him to be able to go to the State of the Union address. But
it was really powerful, really powerful moment. Kwame, I want to get you in here. We also are going to we're expected to hear from the president on his proposal to expand community college access, which is another important initiative. What kind of an impact will that have?
I think that's very powerful. I think, dovetailing with Malik Bryant's story, you talk about a young man who just wants safety. I think what we all want is an access piece to the American dream. I think that one of the big measures of inequality in America is the feeling that people think that the American dream is slipping away. And so as that American dream pulls away, how do we close that gap? We close it through education. And so I think the community college proposal is very powerful because it provides a leg up for some of the poorest citizens in America to educate themselves through this new initiative for 2-year community college. So I think the president hit it right on the head in terms of pushing forward with this community college initiative.
All right, Kwame Jackson and Tremaine Lee, thank you both. And as we go to break here, we can see SCOTUS. There's the notorious RBG right there. walking into the chamber. We'll have more right after this.